Thank you, Morgan. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kent. I am Elaine Bowen, a member of this congregation and this morning's worship associate. Thank you for joining us this morning as we gather once again a spiritual community that seeks to be diverse and inclusive as we inspire love, work for justice, and grow together in community. Once again, welcome.
All right. A quote from Martin Luther King. Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and your verb agree to serve. You don't have to know the secondary or thermodynamics in physics to serve. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. Now, we will now light our chalice. Please join us in the words for the lighting of the chalice. They are printed in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
I invite each of us into a time of stillness to turn inward, to connect with the love that is the very heart of life itself, to reflect on the mysteries of life, and to remember once again that we are connected to each other and all of life as part of the great interconnected web. Let us enter into the silence. In the spirit of being a community of compassion and care, I ask that any yellow cards that have been filled out be brought forward at this time. For those who are on Zoom, please use the chat box to share with us your sorrows and losses. I will begin this morning with a sorrow for our dear friend and longtime church member, Kat Holtz, whose mother, Mary, passed away yesterday morning. We hold Kat, her sister Cindy, her niece Sarah, and all who loved them in our hearts and keep them in our prayers. Mary Ann Stevens and Jack Graham, with broken hearts, shared that their granddaughter Chloe died unexpectedly this past week. We hold Mary Ann, Jack, and all of their family in our hearts with this most recent sorrow to happen to their family. Vivian Sandlund shares that she holds Sally Burnell in her heart. Raven Luna Black Raven asks for prayers for Victor and for her daughter Aurora, who are having upcoming surgeries. I add my wishes for health and healing to all of those who are currently afflicted by the latest surge in COVID in our community. We know that transmission is extremely high in Portage County, and it is our hope and our prayer that all stay safe as best they are able. For those whose names have been mentioned today and those that we hold silently in our hearts, we offer our love and support. Will you now join me in the spirit of prayer? Spirit of life and love, be with us, around us, within us this day. We are saddened by the losses within our community, both those that are known to us and those that are unknown to us, because a loss of life at any time for anyone is time of deep sorrow. May Mary's memory, may Chloe's memory, may the memory of all be a blessing for the light that they brought to this life while they were here. And may our love for them remain in our hearts as a reminder of lives well lived and greatly missed. For those who are ill, we pray for healing, however that may come. We know, too, that life offers us joys and celebrations. For those who are on Zoom, please use the chat box. If you have any that you would like to share here in this room, please use the microphone. Raven Luna Black Raven says that they are grateful for their job interview tomorrow via video. We wish you well. May it turn out as you wish it to. With gratitude for these and for every blessing we receive in life, for the gift of life itself, for the companionship of one another on life's journey, for the hope and possibilities we discover, together we say, Amen.
And Wow. Thank you, Katie and Sonis, for that beautiful song that speaks to all of our hearts. I'm Jennifer Gregg, and I'm serving as one of your lay leaders today. And I'd like to share the following story with you. Shortly after I began attending this church, I learned about the UUCK version of summer religious education called Hogwarts. Having been fond of the Harry Potter series of stories and being eager to share in some capacity at church, I readily volunteered to help in the kitchen. If you want to get to know an organization and its principles and people, you can learn a lot from the kitchen. After my first year learning the ropes, I had the opportunity to serve as the head kitchen witch. Serving in this position requires an intense 4-day weekend, during which you get to work with a group of amazing UU members and friends that have both a sense of humor and a passion for serving kids. The head kitchen witch gets to determine the menu for each Hogwarts session, with committee approval, of course. I thought about the food from my childhood that I really enjoyed while I crafted this menu. We had a significant number of students with special diets and several vegetarians that year. I wanted to serve fresh, high-quality nutritional food to both the students and the staff of Hogwarts. I planned a healthy menu that included many fresh fruits and vegetables and a vegetarian and gluten-free alternative for each meal. We kept the much-loved mummy dog lunch, which consists of a hot dog wrapped in a crescent roll and baked together. They're unbelievably delicious. We had a vegetarian version available made with a plant-based hot dog, as well as one made from gluten-free bread. I added baked chicken legs in place of the usual processed chicken nuggets, rigatoni with a choice of tomato or Alfredo sauce, and I kept some pasta on the side for those kids I knew would be pasta purists. On our Quidditch tournament day, we ordered delivery pizza from a local pizzeria. Promoting healthy eating, I had asked the staff to refrain serving candy in their classrooms, except for, of course, in the chocolates class. In the great American tradition of sugaring up the kids at the end of an event, we would have our day's desserts of cupcakes, ice cream, and butterbeer floats at the conclusion of the day on the front lawn. I thought I had this all figured out and things would go very smoothly. I would go down in history as the greatest kitchen witch ever. I would go down all right. On our first day, snack was uneventful, and we started lunch with individual salads. Did you know that you're not supposed to put actual vegetables on top of a kid's salad? I didn't know this. Also, most kids are not aware that pasta comes in many shapes and sizes, and rigatoni is not a commonly known one. Alfredo sauce? What the heck is that stuff? They were suspicious. Many were convinced that it was some trick to try to get them to eat mayonnaise. Still others wondered why I'd put warm ranch dressing on the pasta. Garlic bread? That's a no-brainer, right? Wrong. Garlic bread made with Texas toast is unheard of in Northeast Ohio. Sprinkle it with parsley? No. She's trying to get us to eat kale, one of them announced. Day number 1 was a flop. Day number 2, uneventful morning snack. Lunch of baked organic chicken legs, mashed potatoes, and candied maple carrots. Ew, there are bones in it, many of them exclaimed when they were served their lunch plates. A few brave souls tried the carrots, but most of the carrots were left untouched on the return plates. Half of the mashed potatoes also came back with their chicken legs either stuck in the middle or buried underneath. Day number 2 was a flop. Day number 3, pizza. I noticed a few more packed lunches coming in the doors that morning in the kids' hands. 11:45, pizza should be here any minute. Noon, any minute. 12:05, maybe we better call. We called, and the pizza shop had forgotten to make our 4 sheet pizzas. Oh boy. We'll have them to you by 1 o'clock and they'll be discounted 20%, they said anxiously. Click. I had 100 hungry children, 20 hangry teenagers, and 24 hangry adults to contend with for the next 45 minutes. There's no candy anywhere in the castle. The Quidditch tournament has to be delayed because lunch is late. And I'm beginning if they're going to start gathering firewood and erect a stake and fire the kitchen witch. What would Dumbledore do? Quick, get the desserts to the front lawn, all of them, the cupcakes, the butterbeer, the ice cream. Serve them now. Allow seconds for everyone once they've each been served. The pizza did arrive eventually. There were a few pieces eaten by seemingly bottomless stomach prefects. Everyone else was stuffed with desserts. We offered the pizza as a to-go item, and we stuffed the remaining 2 sheet pizzas into bags to be reheated at the closing ceremonies the following day. Hogwarts kept me on for several more sessions. Things improved with each session. We introduced many children to Alfredo, hummus, and walking tacos. They even had the opportunity to try dried crickets. I am long retired from kitchen witchin', and now get to carry the title of Kitchen Witch Emeritus. As of the last report I received on Hogwarts, the candy is back, there are no bones sticking out of the lunches, and the crickets are off the menu.
Thank you, Jen. I enjoyed reading that when you were getting ready. Most of me know you as your board moderator. I am not a lay minister or a worship associate. I never really dreamed that I would be doing this on Sunday morning. This takes me well out of my comfort zone, but I am standing here anyway. As a board member, I see the need for service to this congregation in particular, but also in the ways we serve the communities that we belong to and the people we are in relationship with. We hope that the hymns we have selected and our reflections will inspire you to find your own way of serving. In preparation for this service, I was tasked with reflecting on what service means to me. My first thought was, why? Why do I do this? Why do I offer my services to the various organizations that I belong to? Often there is no thanks or appreciation, and then there are all the meetings and time spent getting ready for meetings or performing specific tasks. Why does anybody do this? There are sometimes conflicts, and serving takes time, a time that I could spend with family or doing recreational activities. Upon reflection, I have come up with a few reasons that motivate me to continue to serve. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. We said these words at the beginning of this service, and we say them often during services. The part about service its law resonates with me. Saying these words for me is a promise to do my part where I can. It is this line that called me to serve on the Board of Trustees. I want to honor the work that others have done before me, and done before me and offer my services where I can. I believe in our principles and I want to do my part. Another motivation that calls me to service is our daughter Morgan. I've always believed in leadership by example. I want her to grow up seeing firsthand the value of service such that she will follow in our example and in turn want to incorporate service into her own life. But if I had to put my finger on the one thing that drives me to serve, it's because of the donuts. Let me tell you a story. You see, a few decades ago, I was a sophomore geology major at Kent State University. The geology club had a coffee and donut table on the second floor of McGilvery Hall. The club would sell coffee and donuts on most mornings to the students to make money for the club. People would come to the coffee table, smile, get a fresh donut and coffee to start their day. It became a morning ritual for many. Abruptly, one day, the donuts stopped. I asked my friend John, who was in charge, "Where are the donuts?" "Nobody went to pick them up today," said John. The donuts came from a shop called Paltro's that used to be on East Main. Somebody had to ride the early morning campus loop bus over to Paltro's, carefully tie 5 boxes of a dozen donuts each together with a string, get back on the bus with those 5 boxes of donuts, and try to find a seat, which was a real trick in the wintertime, and ride all the way back around campus on the loop bus to get back to McGilvery Hall in time for the early morning classes. Nobody did it. People were grumpy. "What? No donuts?" moaned the geology students. The geography students from the 4th floor came down. "No donuts," they scowled. Their shoulders slumped and they turned and dejectedly climbed the steps back upstairs. Everybody was crabby. We counted on those donuts to start our day. No one wanted to face early morning classes without coffee and a donut. This happened a few more times and then I'd had enough. I asked John, "Are the donuts paid for?" And he said, "Yeah, but no one will go pick them up." I silently wondered what was wrong with John. You see, John is closer to 7 feet tall than 6 feet tall, and his legs work just fine. But nobody went to pick them up. I considered my actions for a few moments, and then I said, "I'll go get them." And I did. And then I did it the next day, and the next day after. And pretty soon, my job was to get that coffee table going in the morning, riding the bus every day on the loop bus all the way around campus and trying to get on the bus with all of those boxes of donuts. In spite of that, I never really thought of this as a chore. We choose to serve because we see the positive effects for ourselves as much as for anyone else. We choose to serve because there is no distinction between us and them, because those serving and those being served, everybody benefits. Everyone experiences a need to be a part of a community that helps one another and that values the gifts each person has to offer, even if it is just a donut. People would round the corner on the second floor of McGilvery Hall, see the full pot of coffee and boxes of donuts, and their faces would light up. People would stand around the table and talk, tell jokes, make new friends, and the community that came together around that table made it all worthwhile. Everyone's life was better because of that donut table. This church is a lot like that donut table. We have our own donut getters here in this community. Reverend Stephen gets us donuts every Sunday. Mary Beth works quietly behind the scenes making sure the donuts are delivered. The board, the MET, the Committee of Shared Ministry, coordinators, worship arts team, our tech crew, greeters, and many others all work to bring us donuts. A donut is round. It has no beginning or no end. What goes around comes around. Yes, there will always be a hole in that donut. Someone has to attend the meetings. Someone has to prep for the meetings. Someone has to volunteer to perform tasks, but like that donut, the result is always warm and sweet. I hope that you can find a way to bring donuts to others and in turn bring donuts to yourself.
One of the areas of service that I enjoy is being involved with gardening. I love all things garden related. Designing, prep work, choosing plants, caring for those plants in the garden they are growing in, and watching it all come to life and produce beauty and bounty. I know that when I plant my sunflower seeds in late spring, that I will lose many of them to unexpected frost, hungry chipmunks, and clumsy dogs. I know that I will replant them several times, and eventually I will be rewarded with a midsummer splendor of beauty that lasts well into fall. When I use my gardening skills in service, I love to hear people mention in conversation how nice the garden looks, and I enjoy the compliments and thank yous I receive while I'm working in the garden. I'm always careful to check with the owner, proprietor, or groundskeeper about any changes that are to be made and any restrictions on design or species of plants. I strive to complete the unsightly work as quickly as possible and do a thorough cleanup after each workday, with all the tools and work evidence removed at the day's end. When I first started attending the UU Church, the south bed of the church was a mix of crowded perennials, native crabgrass, thistle, and dandelion. There was a bit of poison ivy, a few small sumac plants, and an extensively spread English ivy that crawled through the bed, up the brick walls, around the old wooden kitchen window frame. It had strangled several plants and small shrubs to death and left only their skeletal remains. The ivy, though destructive in its nature, gave the church a classic, aged brick building look reminiscent of an English cottage garden. It was beautiful in its own way. The roots of the ivy had been able to climb our church by attaching their rootlets to the grout between the bricks. Each rootlet was working its way in between the granules in the grout and slowly causing it to crumble. The downspout that carried the rainwater away from the foundation had been pulled out of shape by the ivy, and the places where each piece joined the next would leak during heavy rain and direct the water down to the foundation of our church building, where it would seep through and run under the floor in Fessenden Hall in the kitchen. The south window was in desperate need of paint, as the ivy rootlets had peeled up much of the old paint and covered what remained, making painting it impossible. I asked the building and grounds coordinator as well as the minister about the presence of the ivy and the damage it was causing, as well as the overall condition of the garden bed. They told me no one had worked in this area in a long time and asked if I was interested in initiating this service project, complete with ivy removal. My husband and I had just started with our first chalice group together. This was my second time in a chalice group, and I knew that each group usually completed a service project together for the church community. That winter, I presented the idea of renewing the south bed at the church as our project. The group agreed to it. Building and grounds coordinator as well as the church office was notified, and my husband and I agreed to care for the garden bed for 3 years after the initial project. That spring, 10 of us from our chalice group, much younger then than we are now, with all our original hip, shoulder, knee, and finger joints, completely cleaned out that bed of old dead plants, unwanted weeds, and every last inch of that English ivy that had a 6-inch diameter taproot reaching down several feet into the ground. We amended and turned the soil, and then heavily mulched the entire length of the bed. A few of us returned later in the spring and planted a few perennials and many annuals. That summer the bed looked great. There were a few folks that commented on the ivy removal, but if they asked about it, they seemed satisfied with the explanation of its removal to protect the integrity of our building. It seemed like its removal had been forgotten and accepted until the church service auction that fall. A former member that had moved out of the area sent some of their framed photography of the church to the church auction. One of the pieces was a lovely picture of the ivy-covered brickwork on the south side of the church. It was from when the vine was young and very beautiful. By now, I had become known as the person responsible for the removal of that ivy. Someone placed the picture in the south window in Fessenden Hall, directly adjacent from where the ivy had originated. And during coffee hour, I would hear my name being mentioned and see the unhappy faces of fellow members longingly looking out the south window. Friends, I apologize for causing you all such ivy sorrows. But you see, I was trying to protect our building and beautify our grounds. Grace is defined as courteous goodwill. When someone engages in service, they bring their own unique perspectives and life experience with them in performing that task. Their contribution doesn't always represent how others might have done it, but it is always done with the intent to give of oneself from the heart. This is where we all need to give and receive grace. I leave you today with a quote from Eric Walker Wickstrom from his book, Serving with Grace. Work devoted to something greater than yourself lifts you out of the narrow sphere of individual concerns, enlarges your perspective, and provides context for the joys and concerns of your own life. It's a reality check, bringing us constantly back to the truth of our seventh principle, in which we affirm the interconnected web of all existence.
Thank you, Don and Jennifer, for your service to our church. We are strong and thriving as a community and are able to be together in person and virtually for worship and shared ministry because of your gifts of service, money, time, and care that each so generously donates. Thank you. To help others in our community thrive, we also give to agencies and organizations in Kent and beyond that serve those in need. July's special offering, which ends today, is for Planned Parenthood of Ohio, which provides essential reproductive health care services, including safe and legal abortion to people in the Northeast and Central Ohio. If you are curious, our August special offering will be for the Happy Trails Animal Sanctuary here in our area. In the spirit of gratitude for the gift of one another, this community, and the abundance that makes generosity possible, we now give and receive the offering as a sign of our shared commitment to the life and work of this congregation and beyond.
Open up Facebook, turn on NPR. The news is depressing as hell. Hatred and thoughtlessness, fear, greed, and cruelty. My God, we create them so well. These are the moments I feel like retreating, defeated right into my bed. These are the moments when it just might matter if I ask some questions instead. Could I be the one to give food to the hungry? Could I be the one to rebuild someone's home? Could I be the one to show up and sit down at the bed of a person who's sick and alone? Could I be the one? Could I be the one? Could I be the one to make the difference? I want to live in a world where the news is cause for delight, not alarm. I want the next generation to know you can always choose care over harm. Sure, there are moments I think it can't happen, that we're just too lost in our pain. Then I remember surrender is fatal and turn to those questions again. Could I be the one to go visit a prisoner? Could I be the one to go tutor a child? Could I be the one to speak up in the silence as some are mistreated while others just smile? Could I be the one? Could I be the one? Could I be the one to make the difference? And of course, the answer is yes, I'm the one, but only if I'm one of many, many to bind up the broken, many to fight the good fight, many to struggle for justice, to take what is wrong and to work till it's right. Many to love with abundance, many to care with compassion. Our hands and our hearts and our minds and our souls all together to make the world new. We'll be the ones to give food to the hungry, and we'll be the ones to build houses for all. We'll be the ones to bring help to the suffering. Yes, we'll be the ones who will answer the call. We are the ones, we are the ones, we are the ones who make the difference, who make the difference, who make the difference, who make the difference.
We will now extinguish the chalice.
We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. May we carry these in our hearts and minds until we are together again.
We will now have our closing hymn, number 318, in the gray hymnal, We Would Be One.
Or in body. We would be one, as now we join in singing our hymn of love, to pledge ourselves anew.
have our benediction, the Artisan's Prayer by Anonymous.
Teach me.
To use the time I have to work and to use it well, not losing ground.
Teach me.
To profit from past errors without succumbing to vain intransigence.
Teach me.
To foresee my plans without torment. To imagine my work without sorrow if it turns out to be other than I imagined.
Help me.
When I begin my work, when I am at my weakest.
Help me.
At the heart of my labor, that I might hold tight the string of my attention.
And may this community help me fill with hands and hearts the gaps in my work.
In all that I do, give me the strength and grace to speak to others and the honesty to speak to myself.
Guard in me
the integrity and hope without which I would lose heart.
Purify my vision. When I do ill, it is not certain that it will be ill. When I do well, it is not certain that I do well.
Let me never forget that all knowledge is in vain except where there is work, and that all work is empty except where there is love, and that all love is hollow, which does not link me to myself and to others and to the universe.
Teach me
to give with my hands, my arms, my mind, my whole self.
Remind me
that if I work for the love of profit or power, like a forgotten fruit, I will rot in autumn.
Remind me
that if I work to please others, like a flower in the grass, I will fade in the evening.
But if I work for the love of good, there I will find my place. For the only time to do good is here and now. Amen.
Thank you.